Why are you the way that you are? Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way. I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
This is the perfect example of what coaching should not be. It's taken from the American version of the television comedy series The Office. Michael, not known for his coaching skills, unloads on Toby. It has been said that great comedy makes us laugh because it reveals something we can all relate to. We have all seen or experienced something similar to this in real life. Unfortunately, in the case of The Office, we laugh at Michael because he reminds us of someone we have seen at work. May have seen bosses act like him, we may have had bosses like him, or, heaven forbid, we have behaved like him ourselves. So, while it might be worth a laugh or two, this also gives us an opportunity to observe 3 common coaching mistakes related to coaching skill number 2, defining the topic and needs. The first coaching mistake is failing to view the topic and needs from all angles. Michael asks Toby, "Why are you the way you are?" Honestly, at one time or another, we have all caught ourselves asking this same question of others. Probably not out loud, though. And what we are really asking is, why doesn't everyone see this topic the exact same way I do? This reminds me of when I was young and my mom would sarcastically say, "I'm right, the world is all wrong." Defining the topic is not just about seeing the problem and the solution the way you see it as a coach. Defining the topic and needs is about coming to a clear understanding, not only of how the coach sees it, but how the coachee sees it as well. The truth is usually somewhere in between, or a combination of all views. Again, this can be illustrated by a memory from my childhood. I was very interested in space exploration, and early one morning I waited anxiously in front of the television to see the very first color pictures beamed back from the surface of Mars from the NASA Viking Mars lander. Imagine how disappointed I was to see the first image. It was just a long, narrow strip the length of the screen. All I could see were some various shades of red. There were no details at all. And the reason being was that the camera was mounted on a pivot that rotated 1 degree at a time, taking a long, narrow picture with each rotation. Eventually, the screen filled up with various long, narrow images that gradually built into a very robust and glorious image from the face of another world. A coach's perspective is like that first image or two transmitted to Earth from Mars. It's only one perspective. The role of the coach is to gather more information from the coachee and others in order to develop a full, panoramic understanding of the topic and needs. A good coach does this by asking questions, by listening, and by probing. Coaching mistake number 2 is not understanding the differing styles and personality needs of those we coach. In the video clip from The Office, Michael tells Toby, "Every time I try to do something fun and exciting, you try to make it not that way." Our needs differ depending on our personalities and our behavioral styles. We can't expect everyone to be motivated and driven by the same interest and by the same needs. Behavioral style research tells us that there are at least 8 behavioral needs or priorities, them being action, enthusiasm, collaboration, support, stability, accuracy, challenge, and results. And each one of us focuses most of our energy on 3 or more of these priorities. And because we expend much of our energy and interest around these priorities, they can be recognized as needs that we have. In the Office clip, Michael was expressing his need for enthusiasm. Those who are familiar with the series will attest that enthusiasm was never a big need in Toby's work life. Michael and Toby are coming at each other from different frames of reference. They have different needs, different interests. A good coach not only understands his or her own priorities, but also explores ways to better understand and meet the priorities and needs of their coachees. As observed in the video clip, Michael ends up making personal attacks as he unloads all the topics and emotions that are pent up inside of him. This is a perfect example of coaching mistake number 3, trying to address too many topics at once. Instead, good coaches only take on 1 or perhaps 2 topics at a time. Sometimes as a coach, we let things build up inside until we unload everything that bothers us at once. A coachee can't deal with this and is likely to respond with negative emotions. Remember that when introduced to a topic, it's perfectly natural for a coachee to respond with excuses or some resistance. Another risk of unloading too many things at once is that the coachee perceives all of this as a personal attack. The more topics thrown at the coachee, the more likely they are to respond with excuses or resistance, leading to an inability to focus on any real change. This reminds me of when my kids were teens and preteens. I was traveling a lot back then, and when I came home, I wanted to spend time building a good relationship with them. I wanted them to look forward to Dad being home, not dreading it. I also wanted to support my wife, who was maintaining household order by herself while I was gone. So, when I got home, I started making mental notes of things that I wanted to talk about with my kids when the time was right. There were things like uncompleted chores, messy rooms, dirty bathrooms, not doing their homework, getting their haircuts, and the list went on and on. I tended to ignore all these things until I couldn't hold back any longer and Dad snapped. I unloaded the long list of things I wanted them to work on. And I wasn't really coaching them on 1 or 2 things. Instead, I was venting a laundry list so long that my kids just looked at me in disbelief. I learned that this just led to more excuses, and worse still, resistance to me and my list of demands. A coach will have more success by focusing on 1 or 2 items at a time and not making it personal. So, when defining the topic and needs, a coach can improve effectiveness by viewing the topic and needs from all angles, by understanding differing styles and personality needs, and by addressing only 1 or 2 topics at a time.